Hello and welcome to the Underground Network, broadcasting live from LA. This is Monday, May 11th, and I am going to talk about today's Eurogroup, which I'm still following on Twitter. I sat down and listened to all the bits and pieces of the press conferences in Brussels. So everyone is asking questions about Greece, and every
Hello and welcome to the.
That was me repeating myself with the delay on my computer. So today, a new Eurogroup took place in Brussels, and I'm going to once again talk about what's in the underlying idea, what we're witnessing, if we still have some common sense left in our mind, if we're not totally deaf, if we're not totally blind, and this of course is used as a metaphor toward what we're listening and what we're watching every day, as this truly big tragedy unfolds in Greece for the people, obviously not for the politicians, or either the Greek politicians or the European politicians. It's the people are the ones who are at the end are being called to either pay the bills or suffer any and all consequences. It's the people who will either have a future or not have a future. So today I'll start with the Greek finance minister, Mr. Varoufakis, who gave a sort of, not a press conference exactly, that's called a national briefing. So what strikes me is usually, and it struck me before, and I've mentioned it, that the Greek finance minister is very eloquent and in English, has a great mastering of the English language. So he prefers to speak English when asked by journalists abroad, and he does master the language pretty well. He has amazing writing skills as well, and even I think he's got a very he's a talented writer, but as a speaker he also does look like he feels more at ease when answering in English. At this national briefing for Greece, though, at the Eurogroup, he started speaking English and then spoke in Greek. So there were two versions of the briefing, which I will get into in a few moments. But in the past, most of the times in the past, he's been criticized for only speaking English, and I think he at some point heard or got aware of the fact that some people were very annoyed that their own finance minister doesn't address himself to them in their own language. So I've noticed that in the previous weeks he does do both versions, which looks like rather unusual, and I will say why. Today there was another national briefing at the Eurogroup, and that was the Portuguese finance minister. Her name is Mrs. Albuquerque. I don't know how you pronounce that. So her national briefing as a Portuguese finance minister was in her own language. Mr. Varoufakis starts in English, and then after halfway, of course, after having finished whatever he had to say, he switches into Greek and is saying, and now for the Greek version, and then starts basically repeating the exact same things that he said in English. He starts repeating them in Greek. Exact same things? No. Not really. So I don't think you will hear this from anyone, honestly. And now that I've noticed, I will be scrutinizing every single interview from now on whenever he speaks English and Greek, because Mr. Varoufakis said different things in English in comparison to, he said different things in English from the Greek version. Slightly different things, but extremely important and telling about the intentions of his own intentions, or the intentions of the Greek government, or the intentions of the creditors. I don't know whose intentions, but the English version of Mr. Varoufakis, which is part 1 of his national briefing, and the Greek briefing of Mr. Varoufakis, which is part 2 of his national briefing in Greek, are different versions. So let me go to the English version. Very simple. In short, I mean, let's talk about what's common in the two versions. Basically, there is no agreement as of yet. A lot of progress has been made. Does that sound familiar to you? Don't you hear this every single day of your life for the past 5 years that the crisis has been unfolding in Greece? I was listening the other day to a stupid either CNN or Bloomberg program, but nothing of substance, but some people in the morning talking about Greece, between coffee and tea, the usual things, about this problematic country. Very, very, very annoying and saddening if you're Greek and have to listen to this. But anyway, among other things, one of the things that was said, and I thought it was pretty accurate, one of the journalists on the panel said we should ban some of the headlines for Greece, and we should ban some of the same narrative for Greece, because the truth is, every time we hear the same things. Progress has been made, but a lot more needs to be done in order to. We hear this at every level, on every subject, under every circumstances, and under any government. For the past 5 years, it's identical. Regardless of who is talking, it doesn't matter if it's the Greek side or the foreign side. It doesn't matter if it's an article in the newspaper or a Greek article, a foreign article, if it's a journalist or a politician. It's always the same words. Progress has been made, but a lot more needs to be done, blah, blah, blah. So once again, considerable conversions, said Mr. Varoufakis, have been done, and of course he spoke of course, no agreement as of yet, as I was saying, but he spoke of a positive atmosphere. Everything was in good spirit. This is very important because Mr. Varoufakis has been pretty much at the epicenter of a lot of attacks as of late, namely at the meeting in Riga, where he was sort of marginalized, at least by a part of the press or part of the politicians. So somehow they sort of negatively reported on him, and he even mentioned it, that a lot of his colleagues today were sorry about that and were actually condemning the things that happened in Riga. But beyond that, Mr. Varoufakis talked about all these efforts, and the words he used were extreme hard work, endless hours. I mean, these are not the exact words, but I can't find them right now. Yes, our government's great efforts, but also the conversions between Greece and its creditors are coming not only thanks to or after the Greek government's great efforts, but also because of the Greek government's major concessions. So the Greek finance minister spoke of major concessions to the creditors, and I guess this was during the Brussels group, that whatever the Brussels group is it's like those technical teams, it's those people who have like different names, but these are different versions of Troika. You have Troika 1, Troika 2, Troika 3, Troika A54, depending whether they're in Brussels or in Athens, if they're technical teams or if they're, Euro working group teams or Brussels, doesn't matter. These are all Troika versions of something at different levels. So Mr. Varoufakis basically spoke of major concessions on behalf of the Greek government. Do you hear that, people? Major concessions. So more concessions. We already have a despicable agreement, February 20th, which is basically the continuation of the old memorandum. Come on, let's call it what it is. It's the continuation of the previous memorandum of understanding with strings attached. And so the same program, and that's even made clear even today, because before I get further into Mr. Varoufakis' briefing in both languages, there was a Eurogroup statement on Greece, and it ends like this, a very short statement. Of course, the statement of the Eurogroup on Greece ends. The Eurogroup reiterated that its statement of the 20th February remains the valid framework for the discussions. Let me remind you that the February 20th, 2015 sort of framework refers to the last framework of April. Was it April? No, May 2014, which refers to November 2012. This is all the memorandum of understanding. This is all MOU. This is all memorandum. This is all the same program. So this is it. Like they just mentioned the last date, but I'm not saying those dates by chance. They are pretty precise, if I'm not mistaken. So the 20th February remains the valid framework of for the discussions. Once the institutions reach an agreement at staff level, the little groups doing the work, on the conclusion of the current review, again a review, the Eurogroup will decide on the possible disbursements of the funds outstanding under the current arrangement. Under the current arrangement, we're still under the arrangement of the previous government, so we're still under the memorandum. Have no illusions on that. But, let's get back to Mr. Varoufakis, who spoke of further considerable concessions. He spoke of major concessions. The same words pretty much were used in the Greek language. And of course, he spoke of his colleagues, as I said, that condemned all the leaks that happened in Riga, and which sort of marginalized and framed Mr. Varoufakis in a negative way. Now, as for the Greek version, so the words used in Greek, as I said, are different from the English words. There are some additions to the English version. For example, it's he uses words, of course, because the Greek version is directed to the Greek people, for the Greek media to sort of cut and broadcast the Greek version. Obviously, in Greece, they will broadcast the Greek version of Mr. Varoufakis' national briefing at the Eurogroup. So the words that he used in Greek are the words, the government is striving, it's negotiating, use the words negotiation, is working day and night. There's some additions. There's an extra supernatural super effort. He spoke of a super effort, not supernatural, super efforts. I'm not translating correctly. I'm just doing this really fast. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that in the English version, he spoke about what's trying to be what they're trying to do is basically, and this is the English version. English version says we're trying to find common ground between the previous memorandum of understanding and our government's agenda, which has been opposed to the, I think you used the word antithetical. So So we're trying to bridge the previous memorandum of understanding and the program and our government's policy agenda, which is opposed to this memorandum of understanding, and it's been critical of this memorandum of understanding, of this previous memorandum of understanding. So in English, he said that he's trying to find common ground between the previous MOU and the policies of the government which are opposed to it. Now, in the Greek version, he said, I will not, I don't have to use the Greek words here because this is obviously the show is in English, but in Greek he spoke of the former MOU program, same thing like in the English version so far, and the post-MOU reforming program, which the Greek people voted on the 25th of January 2015. So in the Greek version, Mr. Varoufakis says that common ground is trying to be reached between the common ground is trying to be found between the previous MOU and, word for word, the former MOU program and the post-MOU reforming program. This is the new program that he's talking about. He's calling it a post-MOU, post-memorandum of understanding reforming program, which the Greek people voted on January 25th, 2015. He uses the date that the Greek people voted to say that basically what he's saying is that the Greek people on the 25th of January, during national elections, voted for a post-memorandum of understanding reforming program. I don't think they voted for a post-memorandum of understanding reforming program, Mr. Varoufakis. How did you come up with this? People voted in a national election to vote some people in government, and they voted them to end austerity. Namely, they actually voted them to end the memoranda, any memoranda. Now you are telling the Greek people in Greek, in the Greek version, in your Greek version of your national briefing, you're telling them that you voted for a memorandum of understanding reforming program. Really? That's not what national elections are for. So if you're trying to include the Greek people in what you're doing, I think you're totally wrong. And this is my personal opinion, and I speak for myself, but this is what you're doing. Because otherwise, if you have to be totally, I'm not even trying to look under the substance here. There is a clear divergence between your English version and your Greek version. There's a clear direction. You're directing your English version toward your creditors, your creditors actually, your meaning your political system's creditors. You're directing it to them and to the international media. Meanwhile, you're directing the Greek version to the Greek people, where you're telling them, and you're not even reminding them, because that's not what they voted on the 25th of January. You are telling them that they voted for something as specific as a post-memorandum reforming program on the 25th of January. That is kind of insanity. That's a lie. First of all, it's a lie, but that's showing how sneaky you're trying to include the people. You're manipulating the people by saying this. Why are you saying something like that? A national election is to vote people in power. It's nothing else. That's it. It's not just to vote on specific or validate specific programs. That's not what it is. It is completely and utterly false, incorrect. It's a lie. So people like me who are able to go and research and listen to you in both English and Greek and go find the source, are going to see that. No journalist, of course, is going to bother to report that. I don't even know if they will listen to both versions. I don't even know if they're going to notice. I don't even know if their English is of course their English is good enough to understand that, but they're never going to report that. But this is all very, very suspicious. Anyway, suspicious. It's so obvious. I mean, whatever. So anyway, other things another minor thing that he said in Greek, which he didn't say in English, he basically spoke that the Eurogroup and the Greek government have political differences. That he also said in the English version, but what he added in the Greek version, he spoke of political differences that are totally suitable to an independent European country. So he basically addressing himself toward the Greek people in order to make them feel better, I guess. He used the words, this is because we're an independent European country that we have political differences with our creditors. This is not something he said in the English version. In the English version, I think he didn't even mention, of course he didn't mention the independent European country. Why would he mention that in Greek? In English, excuse me. Why would he remind the creditors who know very well that right now Greece is absolutely no independent country, at least in theory it is, but not in practice. So why would he provoke the creditors in English? But he wants to say that in Greek. He wants to tell the Greek people, hypnotize them a little more and tell them that, this is very normal to have political differences since we are an independent European country. Okay, another little detail. Anyway, the most important words, common both in English and Greek, were the words conversion. That there are basically there are considerable conversions. He spoke of a general positive climate. When you hear positive for creditors, you can be sure it's negative for the people. And he also spoke of major, and that was the word he used in English and in Greek, major concessions. So get ready, people. Now, that is not the only thing I listened to today. I went and listened to every single press conference. It's anything from 5 to 10 minutes. There are small bits and pieces. It was, the president of the Eurogroup, Dijsselbloem, who spoke, then Pierre Moscovici, then the ESM director or president, whatever he is, Klaus Regling, and then all the journalists' Q&A, questions and answers. So I listened to all of those guys. You have Mr. Dijsselbloem, who is playing. This guy is like, I don't know. He's like very fit and very slim, and he's not just the president of the Eurogroup. Has another different attitude. His hair is always like very fashionable. I try to imitate him today. You have like better hair than usual. So Mr. Dijsselbloem spoke of congratulated Ireland for the amazing reforms and told us that Ireland is the proof that things are working. That's why, good, well done, Ireland, once again. The last time I heard him talk about Ireland, it was exactly the same thing, praising Ireland for the amazing efforts, also praising Portugal the previous time, even at this point praising Cyprus, who is moving forward with foreclosures. So basically they're going to start, they legislated and they're going to start grabbing people's homes, and that's a great progress for all these people at the Eurogroup. So apparently Ireland has something. What's it called? It's called a surveillance. I wrote it down. It's Ireland has something is under a surveillance program or something. This is what they call it. This is a post-memorandum or post-surveillance program. So, of course, it can, borrow in the markets, but it's doing amazing. Ask the people of Ireland what they think about that. Then Mr. Moscovici, the European commissioner, started to spoke of what the reforms are going to be in Greece, and he said basically, if Greece is not able to deliver, it's all about numbers. If Greece doesn't want to do the exact same reforms that's in the program, the previous program, the memorandum of understanding and all this, the previous agreement, it will have to replace those reforms with reforms that bring equal money. That's the idea. We don't care exactly what you do as long as you deliver the money. That's the general framework. But he spoke of VAT. So goodbye, small and medium enterprise in Greece. Did you think you were not going to have an increase in VAT? Goodbye. He spoke of VAT. He spoke of deregulation of the labor, deregulation of all the labor regulations, basically collective, contracts and all those things. He spoke of that. He just hashed through. He didn't insist on many of those reforms. Of course, cuts in pensions and cuts in salaries and pensions so that people can find jobs. Now, what is the relation between basically, because he mentioned Cyprus at some point, and he said, how with the foreclosures moving forward in Cyprus, this is gonna prop up growth and jobs. Yes, sure. Oh, and about Greece, he also spoke that the Greek finance minister apparently committed to creating a independent body to be able to collect VAT and all those things. When you hear independent body, that's private, probably a private company. So no more protection from even the very little protection left for you, the people, because the government is supposed to be there to protect the people. No, that's going to be an independent, let's call it independent body, and then we're done with it. So yeah, Mr. Moscovici just really just brushed through those reforms, so much so that later on a journalist from Bloomberg, if it was a lady, asked him, tell us about the reforms, and he said, oh, I'm not going to tell them, I told them already. And so she was completely shut down, and he completely dismissed her question. And then Mr. Dijsselbloem jumped in and defended Mr. Moscovici. Oh yes, he of course said the reforms. So, and I even took notes of those reforms. I mean, the level of I can't even call what it is. Like, these people are just laughing at us in our face. What is the logic of the reforms being said by Mr. Moscovici were noted by Dijsselbloem while he was saying them? Is that serious or what? Anyway, poor Bloomberg journalist question remained unanswered. Of course, yes, Mr. Moscovici spoke about VAT, spoke about deregulating labor, spoke about cuts in pensions and all those things, but really brushed through. So we, the people, don't really know what's expecting us. We're waiting to see precisely what that is, and it looks like it's very confusing, because this is this is an intermediate time, a bridging thing. There's no program, it's the continuation of the previous, but there's going to be a review, and then there's an agreement in June, or is there going to be an agreement in June? And then an Italian journalist jumped in, I think it was Corriere della Sera, but I'm not sure. He jumped in and said, but you're talking about an agreement, but is the review for the disbursement of money, is it just an agreement that's going to make you give the money to Greece, or is it the implementation of the reforms? Because is it only just the agreement? Oh, here we have an agreement, here's the money. Or is it, hey, this is the agreement, have some time to implement those reforms, and then we'll give you the money? And Dijsselbloem was like, oh, thank you for this question, because yes, of course, we need to implement the reforms for a review to be completed, so for us to disperse the money. It's not about only the agreement. So the solution to this very confusing scheme is that what they're doing now, because there is not much time left, whatever that means, all we've heard is there's always a deadline, there's never enough time. The conclusion is we're going to start implementing bits and pieces of the reforms, and then we're going to break the disbursements in bits and pieces. I'm just making it very simple for you, but that's the idea. So basically, expect bits and pieces of reforms being implemented, and then getting little by little, just a very little bit of money. That's what they're doing. Also, I think that's very convenient for the new Greek government, because probably by doing so, it's easier to make it more. It's easier for the people to swallow. So that's kind of very convenient for both sides at the moment, to sort of like slowly starting to pour the poison of reforms, and then the people will not they won't rise up, they won't sort of rebel, because it's little by little, so they almost won't understand it. Of course, one day they will wake up, and of course they will understand it. They already understand, because Greece is at an extreme. Every day that goes by is crucial for the economy, and so though this intermediate program is not something that's harmless for the economy, it's actually extremely harmful. So those past 3 months have been extremely harmful. The situation was already dire. It is a lot worse. And I read somewhere, and one of bloggers that I used to like, I mean, I still, I guess, like sometimes, now I start disagreeing with him, because he just said 3 months won't change anything. Are you kidding me? In a situation where the economy is at the state where it is in Greece, 3 days is crucial. So it's not 3 months. It's 3 months is extremely important and destructive for the Greek economy and the Greek people. So I think that is a general idea of today's Eurogroup. I don't think you will hear that from anywhere, and I don't mean to just be I'm not a journalist. I don't care to be. I'm proud not to be a journalist, but I do master Greek and I do master English, and Mr. Varoufakis' English version of his national briefing at the Eurogroup in Brussels and his Greek version were different, significantly different, and very suspicious to the common sense mind. I mean, not even to the common sense mind, to even, I don't know, those who are dormant. To finish today, hello, my brother is watching me, my literal brother, and he's saying hello. He likes what I'm saying, and trust me, my brother never ever congratulated me without agreeing with me. We've disagreed all our life, so it's actually very impressive. I'm very impressed that he's agreeing and commending me. So that means, and just to let you know, just to tell you something about my family, they They were not the type of family who were saying good things to their kids. They only said it when they deserved it. Anyway, the bar was really high. Our parents had high expectations from us. Anyway, so back to what I wanted to say. I heard the best metaphor I have heard so far regarding what's going on in Greece and what is really going on with the people, because some people who know about the situation in Greece really will come to me and say, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? Get the beep out of the euro, get the fuck out of the euro, and just become your own independent country and start, jumpstart your economy, give work to your youth, people will come to you, blah 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 blah. Of course, there is a wave of people trying to do this in Greece. There are people working hard to spread the word that such a plan is possible, exists, and can be implemented without having any sort of tragic consequences. But people who come to me and say this to me, why are you people doing this, why are you blah blah blah, and it's like the people are, how are the people? So I'm not in Greece, so I don't know exactly how the people feel. I don't know exactly how the people are. All I hear is people who come here from Greece and tell me everyone's in a good mood, everyone has hope, things are better. Yes, things are not well, but let's wait, blah, blah, blah. That's one version of what I hear. The other version was my friend who traveled to Greece, who is your typical leftist, and who said to me, she was in Greece this past week, and she said, oh, it's amazing, you have no idea, everything is, I went into the ministries because she's working, she's related to the civil public service sector at a high level, and so she was saying, I went into the ministries and you see different faces, happy faces, clean faces, not your typical old those people that were sort of you knew that they were stealing money or being corrupt and all those things. And I believe her. I'm sure most people in government, not everyone, as we proved last week, because there's a lot of old political people in key positions that are still there. So the political system is intact. People are there. So the key people are there, and the political system is the same. But of course, the majority of lower ranked employees and probably are new faces, clean faces, not your familiar faces that the EU wanted. But she presented this whole thing, and of course this was kind of an implied, indirect sort of attack to me, because she knows that I don't think they're really doing something for the people, this current government. So she was saying, everybody's saying that this is a leftist parenthesis and this government is gonna fall and all these things, but these people, they're working hard and they're good people and blah blah blah. So that is, and she says everyone's happy, everyone is drinking coffee, everyone's having fun. Please don't start taking this and start trashing my country again. We have good weather, it's spring, it's normal to have a coffee, okay? So don't use that against me or against the country. But I'm just repeating what she said. She says, yeah, everyone's having coffee, one euro, everyone's sitting there for hours and they're enjoying themselves. There's hope, there's positive, okay. The same day, I didn't say anything. I'm like, oh, great. I wanted to say a million things. Like, are you reading what's going on? Have you looked at the agreement, the 20th of February agreement? Have you looked at what's in there? Are you looking at what they're signing? Do you know that they've taken all the cash from local governments, hospitals, everywhere, and they've just taken it into an account in Bank of Greece and are paying creditors? I wanted to say all these things, but I said nothing. I just said, oh, great. And then the same day, I just bumped into a Greek guy here in LA who I don't know. It's the first time I was meeting him, and he said the most accurate thing I've ever heard so far, the nicest, I think, most accurate metaphor. He said, Greece is like a plane who's going to crash, and because of the loss of the cabin pressure, everyone is just going into deep sleep. Is not only, it's not like hypnotized, it's like it's you fall into this lethargic sort of stage where you're ready to go into deep sleep. Meanwhile, the plane is just crashing. I think this is absolutely what's going on, and I think it reflects kind of what the situation is in Greece. So anyway, that was my take on today's things about the Greek finance minister's double speech, literally double speech, in English and in Greek. If you want to check it out for yourself. I'm not crazy. I watched this 3 times. It's a 3-minute video. You have nothing to lose. You can always double check what I say. As I always mention here, there's no agenda, but I will post the link of the national briefing of Greece. I will post it in the description. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what's really going on in Greece and why the people are so lethargic and why the people are so hypnotized, or why they have hope, because the loss of cabin pressure is putting them under these conditions that it's hard for them to do something. So in a way, it's really good to be away. In a way, I am happy I'm here. I mean, that's not exactly the truth, but you understand what I mean. At least I'm not in the airplane in the cabin with the lost cabin pressure. At least I'm in a place that's having a million issues, but no loss of cabin pressure here for now, at least not for me. I think even if I were in Greece, I would not, I would still try to find some oxygen. So anyway, thank you for watching, everyone, and don't forget to subscribe, youtube.com/underground network. Thank you for your support. Thank you to Konstantinos and Akis. Akis says thank you for everything. I'm not... I'm very happy to be helpful if I can. Believe me, I do spend a lot of time of my day reading, but that's mostly every night and in the morning. But I do a lot of other different things. This is not the main thing I do, but it's the least I can do, honestly. And so far, so good. Tomorrow is going to be the 80th daily live, and if I look back as a general idea, I don't think I have made any sort of major mistake so far. I don't think so. I'm pretty, and what I mean is the facts have not contradicted my take on things in general. Now, do I give any sort of prediction specifically? No, but I do follow very, very closely the words and whatever comes out of these people's mouth, and I don't like it. That's all I had to say. As much as I think you're very likable, by the way, Mr. Varoufakis, I will not stop repeating that, because you have a house on the same island I have a house on, and weirdly enough, my island all of a sudden is featured everywhere in the international media. It's on the island of Aegina is on the Huffington Post. Today it was on the Guardian. I keep seeing my island everywhere. I wonder why. Is it because you, Mr. Varoufakis, have a house there and it's in every magazine, or is it because you and the Prime Minister spent Easter there? I don't know. I just wanted to say that my island is the best in the world, and I wish I was there right now, and I don't know why I'm talking about my island. But anyway, have a great night, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Konstantina and Akis, and see you tomorrow. I will be speaking about something very specific, which I've been working on throughout the weekend, and it's about Germany's breaches of the Eurozone rules. Germany is breaching, has been breaching the Eurozone rules. So that's going to be tomorrow. I'm going to really talk about this and how we're just being completely conned into the opposite, and how Germany is always playing by the rules. This is all bullshit. I think technology is now trying to tell me that I have to finish the show. Okay, have a good night, everybody. See you tomorrow, same time. Have a good night.